Welcome to A Celtic State of Mind. I'm Paul John Dykes, and once again I'm delighted to be joined in the studio by Lawrence Conley and Kevin Graham, where we'll be talking about Celtic 3, Hibs 0. Kevin, what's your overall thoughts on today's performance?
Delighted. The first half was maybe about 50-50. Hibs had quite a few chances in the first half, but that second half, the first 25 minutes of that second half, we completely dominated. We were looking for the killer goal because obviously we knew that our legs were going to go after playing 90 minutes on Thursday night. But the start of that second half was completely domination, and the third goal was like, we deserved it. It was a long time coming, the third goal, really. You just have to have a look at some of the great performances. The Moy up front, Frimpong, Taylor, Scott Brown. They were all utterly fantastic. The Callum McGregor was Callum McGregor. Now, what you've got to say is, Hibs came here today to actually give us a game.
They did.
And they gave us a game in the first half. But we went up a gear in the second half. We completely dominated that second half. 3-0 actually flatters Hibs. The keeper kept them in the game a couple of times. Yes, the last 15 minutes we dropped off because of the European exertions, but that is a very extremely comfortable victory against a team I fully expect to finish third in the league with quite some distance.
Lawrence, before the game, you predicted a 3-0 scoreline. What was your overall views on that performance from Lenny's team?
Very assured. I think we're improving game by game. I think there's only 3 or 4 gears Celtic can go up. I think we all know that it's not us hitting as high as that team can hit, but Hibs can live with us. They're going to be second or third in the league. Barkas is looking like a sweeper keeper. You're hearing him more and more every week. He's definitely, I don't think anyone's got any fears. Have we forgotten about Fraser now? Duffy was a couple of times on a turn, but big Beaton, big Bugatti of a player. He just slots in, makes everything look easy. Frimpong and Taylor, great performances, great. A couple of times Taylor's over at the right hand side, or he's come into centre to cover up. He's cut the balls out. Cal McGregor, he's just Cal McGregor, you know. He's he's just great every game. But Brown, he was the fulcrum, wasn't he? Everything was spinning around his axis. He was just brilliant for us. Moy, we touched a bit with Moy. That is his position, I think. Is Griffiths now 5th choice striker after seeing that? You know, does he have 4 in front of him now? Because Moy was great there. Hopefully Ayet is going to be fit. It's just a precautionary. We hope that, delighted. Just wish I'd went to the bookies before the game.
Moy's work rate was unreal in that second half. He's tracking back. When Hibs are breaking with the ball, he's coming in from behind, nicking the ball off the defenders that are moving forward. But he deservedly got his goal. I mean, after a great cameo by David Turnbull. Turnbull had a fantastic 45 minutes, which would have done him no harm whatsoever. And it's really a surprise, and that says that obviously we were here at half time and we didn't realise he was coming on for Ryan Christie. But what does that say about Oliver Encham? That Turnbull was picked ahead of him today.
Would you read anything into that, Kevin?
We need to read stuff into this. Is what we do. We make mountains out of molehills. So obviously Cham came on as well. But Turnbull was great. I was quite glad that he got the assist as well. Decent to see Sorrow coming in and
that was a good cameo, wasn't it? Some out of 1-2s, and he looks a tidy wee player, doesn't he? He can slot in a midfield. He
did. Nice. He looked good. I know he wasn't on the park long. Gave the ball away once, but he did look tidy. He definitely did.
Turnbull done that last week against Livingston as well for the 9 minutes. He showed his game management, what he was going to do. And what I liked about Turnbull, he plays on the front foot. He's always looking to make stuff happen. So he can go home tonight and be very, very pleased with his 45 minutes as well. As can Beaton. And now I've been Beaton's biggest critic.
Could you explain to us why, or since when have you been his biggest critic?
When we drew with Rangers in the semi-final of the Scottish Cup, and they spawnily beat us on penalty kicks.
Who won the cup that year?
I can't remember. I think it was Hibs.
That's right.
Hibs won it that year. We were 2-1 down, and Beaton was flagging to the bench to come off because he was injured and he was limping about for 5 minutes until we equalised, and all of a sudden his injury disappeared. That's my beef.
Maybe he run it off.
Maybe he did, and maybe I've just been overly critical of the guy. But I must admit, this season he's never put a foot wrong.
I think they're just really lucky to have him. He's just happy to be a backup player. He's a great option in midfield. He's great at centre half. He's a real quality player.
He's so composed. He gives a coolness to the back line, doesn't he?
If you're looking at our defensive performance today, Beaton and Taylor were head and shoulders above Duffy and I.
Oh, aye.
I'd agree with that. I think it's probably not the best Duffy game. I'm not too concerned about that, but he's not played the best. But going back to a point you made, Kevin, he's gone from playing months of no competitive football to getting thrown into 2 games a week. It's maybe caught up with him after the momentum of the first couple of games. What do you reckon?
I do. I reckon he's looking a bit slow on the turn. He's looking a bit leggy. But as you say, he's played no football for almost 8 months. It's the same with Ayeti. It looks like Ayeti's injury's just been the fact that he's been asked to play now.
Overexertion, yes.
Overexertion.
Yep.
And we've spoke many a times about rotation. This is the reason that we are going to see the squads being rotated, because if we get into the Europa League, we are going to be a game every 3 days. And the squad does need to be used. And the fact is, we haven't got a winter break, and the season is already shortened because of the tournament at the end of it, at the end of the season. So the squad is going to get used. And games like today, I really did wish that we had scored the third when we were completely dominant in that first 20 minutes of the second half, and we could have brung on these guys for a decent half hour.
I think the chance was Taylor to Frimpong at the very end of the first half, wasn't it? Great play by Taylor. And before I go on to the points being made on social media, let's talk a wee bit about Taylor's performance. I know yourself, Lawrence, you were very supportive of him during the first half. He's come up against a player that supposedly Celtic were interested in and completely nullified Boyle's threat, hasn't he?
Aye, I mean, Boyle's had a marvellous season so far. Was he on the park today? Taylor would just, it just completely takes him out of the game. Not just that, Taylor is covering up at the back. He's coming right across the right back to cover sometimes.
Yeah.
He's putting good balls into the box. I think he's just grown into the team, Taylor. If that's Martin Boyle, who's meant to be a quick player, and Taylor's meant to be slow, you didn't see any evidence of Taylor losing out against pace at all today for him. I just think, he's a solid left back for us. It might not be Kieran Tierney, but it's another great game for him. Mm-hmm. I like Taylor as a player, and he's got a lot to develop. He's 22, 23. He's got a lot of time to develop into a better player. But today, I thought he was just marvellous today. I
think you saw more of the Kilmarnock player today. The more defensive side of the player, the more solid side of the player, where he had to be switched on to the threat of Martin Boyle, where he wasn't getting a lot of the ball in the attacking areas. Mm-hmm. So he had to be switched on defensively. And when you look at it, everything went down the right-hand side, or went through Moy, or went through Eddie in the middle. There was very little went down the wings in the second half. In the first half, it all went down the right wing with Frimpong. In the second half, there was very little went down the wings. We just completely dominated the middle of the park. Mm-hmm. And I think today you saw today's game suited Brown and Taylor. You saw the strengths of Brown and Taylor today, maybe rather than what we have seen previously when teams have just played that low block and have got no intention of coming out, and they just give Brown and Taylor plenty of the ball.
Aye.
Just to use one of the modern terms, the low block, Kevin, we were talking in the second half, what the new age term would be for sweeper if that position ever came back. We don't need one because we've got Barkas. What a goalkeeping performance in terms of bringing the ball in at his feet and just spraying it out. It's just another pass. He'd have been right up Brendan Rodgers' street, wouldn't he, as a goalie?
It's probably what De Vries was meant to be for Rodgers, isn't he?
Yeah.
He's just grown into it. I think beginning of the season you're a bit worried because with the cracking keeper and Fraser, didn't we? And you're going, what is Barkas going to bring? It's maybe helped so much that you can hear him shout because there's no fans there. You can actually see he's starting to command the defence and the team. Really sure with the ball at his feet. He's looked a good acquisition so far.
He definitely has. Now, we mentioned maybe in the first part of this conversation about Duffy. Not a concern at the moment, I don't think. But even less so when you look at the fact that we're now looking at Beaton and the how assured he looked during the week in Europe and today. And you look at the fact that Julien hopefully will be coming back from his back injury. We've got El Hamid there. And I think that goes back to the point I made in relation to Ayer, Kevin, with obviously the interest in Ayer going during this transfer window. I think we are well covered in the central defensive areas. But if we lose somebody like Ayer, then I'll start worrying.
That is a worry, and I says earlier when we done the pre-match that I do reckon that if Ayer goes, then we will bring in another centre-half, and I do think we do need to bring in another centre-half. El Hamid can cover a number of positions over the back. With Israel, he's played on the left-hand side. With Israel, I've actually noticed he's also played the defensive midfield role as well. He can play right-back. So we've got a sort of journeyman that can play anywhere along that back, but you would still need a first choice centre half. Are you maybe just discarding Beaton? Is Beaton a first choice centre half now if Ayer goes?
I
think you've got Duffy, Beaton, and Julien. Is that your back three?
I think it's maybe a left-hand sided centre half that maybe we're looking at. Beaton can definitely play there, but I mean, I'm a bit concerned about Duffy. That's another game without a goal. You know, it's
Stubbsy reckons he's going to get 10 this season.
Well, with Turnbull's corners, maybe, because Turnbull was throwing in some good corners.
It's a good point. It's a good point. Let's talk about Turnbull, because at half-time, Kevin, you did say, is that a concern for Ncham? I don't think it was, to be honest. I just think it's going back to the rotation of the squad, Neil Lennon managing the minutes for various players. And when you look at some of the things Turnbull actually did, there was a great strike about 10 minutes into the second half. Then there was a through ball to Edouard, which was just tremendous from Turnbull. And then, of course, the through ball for the goal, for El Younoussi's goal. I think it was a fantastic 45 minutes for the young lad. And you've got to ask, is he now in contention? I mean, I don't think Chris had a bad first half, and Christie was good the other night. It's a good headache for Lenny to have for Thursday night.
Well, we don't know if Christie was taken off injured. We never got, we missed that. So I'm sure one of the viewers or the listeners will tell us. But he is in contention. Neil Lennon says after the game in Riga that Turnbull was coming on for extra time because they were already planning for extra time before we obviously scored. So he was in his thoughts then. But today, I was surprised that he came on for Christie. I thought he would have I thought Cham would have came on. But then Cham's played during the week. Turnbull needs the minutes. It could just be another case of squad management. And did the game suit Turnbull today? Of course it did. And we all know, I said this last week, that we all know what Turnbull can do. The midfield players will know that Turnbull can actually do it domestically. Whereas an unknown quantity like Sorrell, we don't know if he can do it domestically because he's never been given the opportunity. So Turnbull is an option there, and I'm sure Christie, Cham and McGregor and Brown do know that Turnbull can come in and do a job, and he proved that today.
He certainly did. Now, we've getting a lot of comments coming through as always, and it's coming through on Twitter, Facebook and YouTube. If you're watching the Celtic State of Mind broadcast on YouTube, make sure that you subscribe to the channel. We are going out at least once a day. This is our third broadcast of this Sunday afternoon, and Aaron Elliott, Turnbull looked class when he came on. Good result, better performance. Let's go hail hail. It's great when we're getting people in a good mood after the game, isn't it?
Yes, I love it.
It makes a big difference, a big change.
Give us thumbs up, give us likes as well, because it will help the channel rating.
It certainly will, yeah. Continue to like us and follow us. Jamie Russell 2, what a game, eh, lads? I think so. I think I've been banging on about Hibs becoming the second force in Scottish football, and Joe Porter comes on to ask, so come on, are Hibs still the second best team in Scotland? Well, we've not played the other side yet, so we need to wait, because obviously, you know, we've overcome Hibs today, 3-0 comfortably. Well, I think that's more down to the performance of Celtic, but also the fact Hibs came out to play us and give us a game rather than park the bus. You know, they didn't come out and park the bus, and you know, if they try and play us at our game, we're going to defeat them. And 3-0 could have been 4. You know, it could have been even a wider margin. So our Hibs, I think the point I'm trying to make are Hibs are vying to be the second best club in Scotland, just like Rangers are trying to be the first. Will they be second? Probably more so third, but they're certainly pushing to be the second club in Scotland.
They've shown they can take, well, you know, the other weekend, the 10 points off the other club.
Yeah, they did.
That was their biggest test of the season. They failed it. This was our biggest test of the season in the league. I think we passed with flying colours.
Well, let's just say this. Jack Ross has brung his Alloa team and his St Mirren team to Celtic Park, and today was the most comfortable we've been against a Jack Ross team.
Aye.
For me, anyway.
It was. Well, one of their star men, let's give a wee bit of praise to Greg Taylor. He was snuffed out.
Aye, Taylor done a marvellous job. But it wasn't just at left back, he was covering up. It's when, at left wing back when we changed and he's pushing forward, he's putting good balls into the box. I think just Taylor's getting better every week. He didn't have an assist today, but he made the run off to give McGregor the room to get his shot off so he wasn't under pressure. He's definitely getting better every week, I think.
That was Scott Brown's best 80 minutes this season.
Yeah, Hold that thought. Before I go into Gary Doonan's point, Stephen T via YouTube, well done Celtic, result and performance. And special mention for Greg Taylor, who outshone Frimpong for me. We've mentioned in the past...
Controversial.
A wee bit. But there are occasions as well, though, a player like Taylor, because he's not doing anything spectacular, what Frimpong does do is the spectacular, and it's memorable.
I think Taylor plays... I think some of the things that Frimpong does badly is when the move breaks down, he kind of stops and has a look and then gets back in, where Taylor just keeps going. He's certainly covered up more defensively. I think he's a better defender than Frimpong. I don't think there's any argument on that.
No argument whatsoever.
Hibs had to make that sub at the left back, didn't he? Have to, was it Doig? They've taken off because Frimpong was just beating him every day of the week.
Stevenson come in to give
marshalled him a bit better, but Frimpong taking a few heavy challenges. I'll tell you what, we're going to need El Hamid if the refs let challengers at that go uncarded. Because what was it? The last 6 minutes or something before he decides to card somebody.
I know, but the thing is, Lawrence, it seems to be the only way domestically, at least, that the teams can manage Frimpong to either kick him or double up on him. Mm-hmm. And that was a problem last season because he ended up getting injured because he was getting a lot of that kind of thrown at him. But as you say, it needs to be managed. And to wait until the last 10 minutes to even up bookings or to make it look as though the referee's actually managing that, it's the same old tactic that shoes Badalis, isn't it?
I mean, we should be calling out as a club and saying, look, Jeremy Frimpong, one of the most exciting players in the league. The amount of tackles that go unpunished on him, or he's 10 late, and the refs aren't taking the action. These are the type of players we want in the league. And it's, I think it's Big Colin's phrase, stone throwers against them.
Hammer throwers. Yeah, that's the one. Gary Doonan, Facebook. Welcome back to the show, Gary. Always good to get your contribution. Do Celtic fans owe Scott Brown an apology?
We touched on it in here, the Ross County game. Maybe it's just taking him a wee bit longer this season to get going. But marvellous today, wasn't it? Just everything that we know he can be.
That was his best 80 minutes of the season. Gavin, he absolutely dominated the centre of that part. Nobody in that Hibs midfield got anywhere near him the whole game. He was fantastic, and Gary's maybe got a point, but it's only one game in a very long season. But I do think today the game suited him.
We were talking in the first half, Kevin, about Celtic clicking into the top gear that we know that they can click into. We've got 5 players coming in. El Yunusi, albeit, knows the club from last season. Bedding those players in, finding the best team, finding the best formation. And I'm not saying we're quite there yet, but that was promising. That certainly wasn't winning a game ugly today, was it? Definitely not.
No, we played with a lot of energy and verve, which what I like to see us playing with. A lot of the times this season we've been a bit slow and careful with the build up and stuff like that. But today we zipped the ball about. I still think we can be better. I still don't think that we've hit top gear yet. There's just certain wee things in the final third, but it usually takes a wee while for us to click in the final third. And that might not happen this season. It might not, because of the number of changes that we're going to make from game to game, just to actually keep the players ticking over. But you look at the front three anyway. You've got Eddie, Ayeti and Moy. They three were... Eddie was a bit quiet when he came on, but the other two can actually be quite happy with their contribution as well. I know Ayeti got took off. You've got Kamala as well, who came on and he done what he usually done. He made a nuisance of himself when he came on again. It was good to see Griffiths back on the bench. We can get better, and it's all to do with the energy that we play with. And hopefully once we get over this pressurised bit of the season where we find out if we're going to be in the Europa League, then the transfer window shuts. Once all that nonsense is out the way, then hopefully we can then put our heads down and look to get the performances back.
Yeah, I mean, you've called it nonsense, Kevin, but obviously what we will be doing is we'll certainly be covering it on a Celtic State of Mind, not only the game on Thursday, but the transfer window. We'll be having a late night that night and just covering every single move, every single moment of that. We'll be covering it here. There might not actually be much to talk about. It could be a bit of a damp squib.
We'll just ask the viewers for their questions.
Any questions?
Any
Anything at all?
questions?
I would think
Oasis or Blur? There you go. There's the first question.
Custard creams or bourbons?
you're looking at Moyes' performance today. You know, up with Ayeti. Again, there's speculation around Eddie. You're not as worried when you're thinking, look what we've got there. He's taking his goal early, he's hit the ball early. He's playing in players. You can see he can play alongside Ayeti. He can play that position. He can. I think a lot of worries we had earlier in the season about the keeper. Is Eddie off? How do we have cover it? If Eddie goes, you know, with Ayeti coming in, Moya looking good in that position. You've got Klamala's stepped up to Mark when asked. You've still got Griff to come back. I think, you know, we're looking good. Actually, we've got 5 decent forwards now. I know Lenny said he wanted 4. I think we've got 5 pretty good ones.
You planted the seed a few weeks ago regarding El Yunusi. I've got to give you credit for that, Lawrence, about bringing him into the centre, because I think this season I was expecting great things from him from the off, you know, with a fit El Yunusi, and we just weren't seeing it at all, were we? Coming in from the left.
No, that left-hand side didn't seem to suit him whatsoever. When you saw him playing for Norway against Northern Ireland, he was in that centre role. You've seen him on Thursday night come on and make a difference in that centre role. The game that he came on sub last week against Livingston, he came on and made a difference in that centre role. And you look at that today, he's 80 odd minutes a day. He was fantastic in the middle. But we know that he's a £16 million player.
Well, the boy was saying that, you know, Taylor eclipsed Frimpong, but actually, Moya Lanusi had to be in with a shout as well. The amount of energy, the way he was finding players, he's got a goal. I thought it was a cracking performance at centre forward for him. Well, just off the centre forward, whatever position you want to term it, I thought brilliant performance for them today.
Let's talk about Edouard. There's been a lot of talk, speculation, it's got to be said, in relation to why he's not starting the game, etc. You just look at last week, he didn't start against Livy. It was clear that he's been saved for the Thursday night's game, all right, because European football's massive for Celtic, and obviously under the current financial situation, it is massive this season, even though it's a Europa League. And perhaps Lenny's just done the exact same. You know, this week he's resting Edouard after his exertions on Thursday night, put him on the bench with one eye on the Thursday night's game. He doesn't look as sharp as normal, Edouard, so maybe it is just a case, Kevin, of giving him a rest when we're able to do so.
You've got to take Lennon at face value with us when he says before the game that Edouard hasn't been at his best and the other 2 deserve a chance. So they're just wrapping him in cotton wool. And even when he came on today, he didn't look as sharp as what he has done in previous seasons. So maybe this thigh injury is hampering him. Maybe he's playing with that in the back of his mind. But he didn't look today, really. That game was suited for him, as I says, at half-time. There was space in that game, get that game for him today. And look, we've got a lot of football to play. And for me, he can have a quiet second half of the day. If he does the business on Thursday night, I'm going to be more than happy.
I asked you the question then, we've spoken about the strikers. Do we start with Edouard on Thursday night? It looks as though, obviously, Ayetis came off injured. Don't know how serious that is. Would you start with Eddie?
I'll start with Eddie and Moy up front.
Would you?
Aye.
What about yourself, Lawrence?
Depending on Ayeti's injury, I mean, Ayeti's on fire. It looks, I would go Ayeti and Moy after that. Moy's performance today. Ayeti's just banged the goals. Eddie's touch, he's just looked a wee bit slow. He's not been the same player. If he is carrying an injury, are you going to want to risk it? I just think Ayeti and Moy worked really, really well today. And, you know, if you're a defender, you're going to be worried there. But it's great that we have that option. You're kind of going, look,
I know.
It's only 2 for those 3.
When you're talking about
still to get fit.
When you're talking about maybe Edouard on the bench, you know, it shows you the quality that's there and players hitting the form at the right time. When you're playing with El Yunusi, you know you're not playing with 2 out and out strikers. He's playing off the front man. So it's great to have the option for Lennon on Thursday night.
Moyes will cause teams that are sitting deeper problems because he drops deep. He'll drag somebody out with him, and he's got the foot. I talk a lot about football intelligence, and he's got the football intelligence to play 1-2s at the edge of the box and make that space in behind. And that's what we're going to need on Thursday night, and that's what we're going to need going forward. So him and Ayeti did have a very good link up in that first half, because they have played together before. But Edouard's such a fantastic player that him and Moy can get that partnership.
You're looking at Moy, he finds the wing backs well as well. His football intelligence, you're talking about, he's dropped, he's brought a guy with him, your forward's moved, there's a bit of room in it, and Moy finds it out to Frimpong, he finds it to Taylor. He's definitely going to have an exciting season if we keep playing through in the middle.
The other player who came on and impressed was Turnbull. Does he start on Thursday night? And if so, who does he replace?
Again, we need to find out if Christie's going to be fit.
It's a good Teddy.
There's only he's not going to replace Brown and McGregor. No one's going to replace them. So you're looking at Christie, Cham, Turnbull now, isn't it? So that's the kind of three you're looking there. Roderick's obviously getting back to fitness. So it's a question of who plays that other position just now.
Christie still got the jersey at the moment, do you think?
Yes.
Yep.
Aye. When you have a look, Lennon's previous, and even on Thursday night against Riga, when you looked at his team, it was guys that you know that Lennon trusts, and he'll go the same again. He'll try and get as many players on the park that he can trust, and he'll do the same on Thursday night. So if Christie's fit, Christie takes that jersey.
Yep.
If Julien's fit, he can't walk right into that team at the moment. Would you agree with that? Because Beaton's performances, Beaton is a replacement at this moment in time.
Lennon trusts Beaton as well.
Yep.
So you've got to say that'll be a really tough decision for
It will
Lennon.
be. So the £7 million man sits on the bench.
Sits on the bench.
Yeah. Interesting times. Paul Mooney commenting on YouTube. Great to see Turnbull. Sorrell also looked good with his little cameo, all very encouraging. He did. I'm not going to get too excited because I know he only had spent a few minutes on the park, but from what I've seen of him, he looked decent. He gave the ball away once, as I said before, but another option that, you know, we haven't seen much of so far.
You could see that it could be Brown's replacement, you know, when Brown eventually hangs it up. Tidy feet, playing nice 1-2s. I think when he gave the ball away, that was probably the easiest pass he had to do under the least pressure. But actually, when he was under pressure,
that's right.
He was sailing through it, wasn't he? He was making it look easy.
I like when players come on, and this is going to sound really, really simple, but when they look like they know what they're doing. I don't like guys that come on and the ball is bobbling and like they look like they're caught in two minds, and they get on that park and that part's just too big for them, and they kind of get taken aback with their surroundings. Sorrell came on a bit like Turnbull the week before, and he knew his job and he knew what he was going to do, and he was comfortable doing it.
Yeah,
and I do quite like that. It's something that if we go right back with Bayo never looked comfortable when he was on the park, and I think Kamala looks comfortable on the park. But that's a lot to do with his touch and his movement. So I like it. I liked Sorrell coming on. He looked like he knew his job, and he looked like he had the confidence to know that he can do it.
He looked a wee bit like Nguemo. Remember him?
Landry and
right.
Nguemo.
Mazhar Yousaf. Absolutely fantastic match from the boys. Brown, McGregor and Christie were sublime. McGregor scoring goals are a thing of beauty. Time and time again, he scores those sorts of goals. And he has George McCluskey to thank for that as well. And Glasgow Road, 3 guys who must now be starters. Now, here's the thing. El Yunusi, Frimpong and Turnbull. Great energy. How many of those 3 start on Thursday night?
2.
I would go with 2. I don't think Turnbull's done enough to take the jersey off Christie, because that's the position that Turnbull's competing for, isn't it?
Oh, it is. And obviously, I don't know the extent of Christie's injury, if it was indeed an injury. But
if he's injured, then it's Turnbull and Cham. And Cham's done well for us in Europe. You know. Let's
not forget, and Cham, he started on Thursday night. He had the best chance of the first half. I was quite surprised when he came off. But as you said earlier on, Kevin, it was good that he did, because if Christie came off, the goal doesn't happen. So it really is getting to that stage now where the right amount of players are playing to their top kind of peak performance, and when that happens, that's when Celtic get their second win. Like you say, sometimes we start off quite slow in the season, Lawrence.
Aye, we do start slow, but this season with the average point things, because we've got to focus on that. We know that if this league could be called early when our average points isn't in first place, I wouldn't I would think that'd be an easy choice for the SFA, wouldn't it? So we need to make sure we're the top all the way through. So.
Stevie might get his third van starting after October the 5th.
Aye. After transfer, if Christie moves.
Well, we'll see. There's been rumours coming through in relation to Burnley interested in Christie. The issue I've got with the Christie situation is obviously they might look at the fact, if there's an offer on the table, Kevin, they might look at the fact that it's better than allowing his contract to run out. If that happened at this moment in time, what kind of transfer fee are we looking at?
We can't do another Boyata. We can't let another first team player run down his contract. And if he's shown no intention of signing another extension, you've got to look at Stuart Armstrong money. You've got to look round about that sort of money.
7-8 million. What was the situation with Boyata? We had an offer at £8 or £9 million on the table, and Rodgers pushed.
I would say Christie.
Under normal circumstances, I agree with that.
This is no normal circumstances.
So maybe 7 or 8.
It's a buyer's market now, and there'll be clubs shaving a couple of million off transfer values here and there to try and get rid of players.
I think we're seeing that. I mean, we do still need someone on the left-hand side, but is Lenny kind of looking at Johnson coming back in as well? If we go through this transfer window, nothing else happens, are you happy for the rest of the season?
If Taylor gets injured, who's going to drop in? You've touched on it. El Hamid can go over there. Not seen him there for Celtic, have you?
How often are we playing with a left back though? How often are we actually playing with a left back?
It's who drops in. Would Mikey be your player for a left wing back? I don't know. That would be, I suppose, the only area that I would say would be weakened just now. Everywhere else, I think we've got at least 2 players for.
Yeah.
That one we maybe don't.
I didn't fancy Johnson as a left wing back. I don't fancy, and that's nothing against the laddie. I just don't think he's got the attributes to actually be a left wing back. We do need somebody on that left hand side, and I've got a funny feeling if we don't get the guy for Charlton, I think we'll just go into the loan market and bring in somebody in the loan market for a short term cover at that. But let's have a look at this.
Is Edson Braithwaite still playing?
Oh, no, listen, I went to Rome to see Francisco Totti, and I saw Braithwaite playing for Lazio.
World Cup winners medal.
We might have. We might go Dorsey and loan market. Eh?
Huh?
If we get a boy for Charlton, we might still go loan market if there's something there.
I think the problem that we've got is something that's maybe not been mentioned, but the players now want to move in the middle of a global pandemic. There might be some of them sitting there going, I'll just stay where I'm at this precise moment in time.
Somebody's shouting, bring back Christian Gamboa. Come on. He was a right back. So, no, it's been a much better performance today. I think we got through on Thursday night. It wasn't a particularly bad performance, but you were up against a very defensive side.
It's been a good week.
It's been a good week for Celtic, isn't
it?
And we move on to Thursday. Thanks everybody for getting involved. When we do the match day coverage, we do a pre-match, half-time and full match analysis, and it's always great to have people like Lawrence Conley and Kevin Graham as part of the panel. And so please continue to get involved. If you've been watching on YouTube, subscribe on there, give us a thumbs up, follow us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and we'll be back tomorrow at 12:30 for the bulletin, and get involved then. All that's left for me to say today is Lawrence Conley, Kevin Graham, thank you for joining me on A Celtic State of Mind.
Thanks very much.